Hey, good morning, folks. How are you doing? Um, Welcome to the Saturday webinar. We're going to get started here very, very shortly. I'm going to make a promise that I'm always never able to keep, but we'll give it a shot anyway. So first of all, I have to make sure that you all can hear me. So I'm going to open the chat box on one of my little devices to see if you can hear me. If you can hear me, say yes, I can hear you, or give me a thumbs up. Okay? Chat box here. Somebody's checking in from Oklahoma City. All right, so you can hear me. All right, very good. I'm going to give it a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and get the cup of coffee as I always do. My cup of coffee is a second. First, both both cups were decaffeinated, primarily because I drink too much. But the one thing I do add is obviously something that I'm going to talk about today, and I have my triple fiber in each one of these things. So I've had 7 and 7 grams of fiber. So I've had 14 grams of fiber already. All right. So you all get your cup of coffee, and I'm going to let a few people in, and then we'll be right back to get started on the webinar. And we'll go ahead and get started on the slide presentation. The first thing I'm going to ask you is those who've been here every week and those who are coming here who've been here last week. I'm going to ask you if what you've changed. I ask at the end of every webinar what you've learned. And then I'm going to ask at the beginning of the next webinar for the past week or two, what is it that you've changed? Okay. So get prepared to open up your chat box so you can talk to me. That's the only way that I can figure out how to talk to you. At some point in time, we will have um, live conversations if that's what you want. Okay. So give me a second. I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to get my other sources of fiber. I'm back. All right. All right. So how's everything? How's everybody going? So first thing, open up your chat box and let me see if it works. Put it in the chat box and everybody say good morning. Let me see how everybody's feeling this morning. Everybody feeling okay or are you down? Let me start it off. I feel great. Had a good night's sleep, so that means that I'm metabolically stable. Getting a good 8 hours of sleep is always my goal. I started actually going to bed a little earlier without the iPad, without the telephone, watching the YouTube videos and the news. Feeling a little tired. I feel good. All right. I gained I gained 3 pounds. So how you feeling about gaining 3 pounds? I'm feeling good, anxious. All righty. Good morning. I feel okay. All right. I'm tired. All right. We're gonna kind of get into some of that. All right. So those of you who aren't feeling 100% today, uh, why do you think that is? What do you think is going on that you're not feeling so good? And you're here for that particular reason. I get it. You're here for me to tell you why it is that you're not feeling so good. But I want you to give me a guess as to what's going on. Obviously, the main reason is that you're metabolically challenged. And we're going to break that down. We're going to break down what do I mean by metabolically challenged? Okay? Because a lot of us are. As a matter of fact, a lot or most of the world is insulin resistant. Some statistics show that 75, 80% of people in this country, maybe across the world, are insulin resistant, meaning that insulin resistance is the center stage of all diseases. High blood pressure, you have high blood pressure. You have pre-diabetes, you have diabetes, you have brain fog, you have PCOS, you have possibly insulin resistance. So we're going to get into that. I'm not going to do too much preaching. I'm going to go ahead and get right into the slides. And let me just kind of continue to look at the chat box, see how people are feeling. I'm feeling okay. I'm tired. I couldn't sleep last night. I'm overworked. Yep. Yep. I'm feeling energetic now after working 12-hour shift today. Wow. All righty. All right. So I'm going to share my slides here. Uh-oh. Hope things. Let's see. Okay. Let's share this. And I think that everybody can see the slides. I'm going to put it in presentation mode. Continue to share. All right. So you're going to see some translations going on at the bottom. That's for our Spanish crowd. So there are some people here today who are getting ready to have surgery. I ask people to come here because I want to be able to tell them what we're going to be doing for them after surgery and how to continue their lifestyle afterwards. There's some people here today who've already had surgery years ago and who may regain the weight, or who've had surgery years ago and who haven't regained the weight. There are people who don't want to have surgery and who are not here primarily to learn about surgery, but who are here primarily to avoid having to have surgery. And that's the crowd. That's a good crowd because that's what we really, really want to do is even though I make my living with people being on the operating table, I'd rather not. I'd rather not make my living that way. Just like a good friend of mine, Dr. Gundry, he's a cardiothoracic surgeon, would rather not have to operate on somebody's heart. All right. So for those folks who have to have surgery, and there are people that have to, for the most part, that have tried diets, that have tried all the things, all the books, read all the articles, watched all the videos, watched all the influencers, and they just simply can't do it. Okay. And that's understandable because this is a disease. This is not a character flaw. It is a disease. You're not to blame. Are you to blame for your type 1 diabetes? Are you to blame for the cancer that you have? No, you're not. This is a disease and it affects you. And our goal is to basically see if we can get into a state that we can possibly mitigate that problem. Okay. So the topic for today is protein, fiber, and healthy fats, PFF, protein, fiber, and healthy fats. All right. So actually, it's protein, fats, and healthy fiber. And the reason that I want you to think about protein, fats, and healthy fiber is that I'm going to show you some evidence that you probably didn't know. And hopefully you'll put this at the end of this session and say, hey, I learned something new today. But there's strong evidence to show that the sequence in which we eat foods matter, and it matters a lot towards our health. The sequence that we eat food. In other words, when we put foods on our plate, we normally will eat, if we have bacon and eggs, we normally eat the bacon and eggs together. But there's data to show that if we mix it around a little bit, if we do it a certain other way, that we can significantly impact our overall health standard. Okay. So the subtitle of this talk is the one thing your healthy diet forgot. The one thing your healthy diet forgot. Open up the chat box again. What is that one thing that I'm thinking of? Read my mind. And we're going to tell you the answer. There's no wrong answer. So put it in the chat box. What you think the one thing that your healthy diet forgot? Okay. Somebody put in their Amazon. All right. I'd rather train my stomach to shrink instead of the sleeve, but whatever is best is what I want. Yeah. And you can do that. There's no question about it. I am not here to promote surgery, but I'm just telling you that if you have certain disease processes, and this is a disease, and it's got to that stage, surgery is a necessity. Just like if you have certain types of cancers, yeah, we got to remove it. Sometimes we can radiate it, sometimes we can give chemotherapy and it can shrink, but sometimes it just requires plain old surgery to remove it. Same kind of thing goes with this particular process as well. If you tried the diets, if you tried all things. So the one thing that we forgot, what is the healthy diets we got? Fluids, okay, good. Protein and fiber, yeah. How to eat, yeah. All those things are correct, but the thing that I am thinking about is fiber, okay? And so that's what we're going to concentrate on a little bit today. So I always start the session with questions for you. And these are open book questions because we're going to talk about the answers. But if you tend to know the answers beforehand, put it again in the chat box, and let's see how we come along with that. Questions for today. We talk about GLP-1 a lot, and I want to make sure that everybody understands why I'm emphasizing GLP-1. What is GLP-1? All right, and why is there such a big craze? Why are we putting it in bottles and then putting it into syringes and then injecting ourselves with it once a week? That's one way to get it. But where did it come from? Okay. Those who've been here know the answer to that. And we're going to tell everybody else. We're not going to hold any secrets. What are the three main functions of GLP-1? It has three functions, and those functions are the reason that it then leads to what it is as a desired result that we're looking for. We're looking to lose weight. We're looking to lose weight that only consists of fat loss. Okay? And I want to show you how the GLP-1, the three main functions of GLP-1, cause us to lead us down that particular path that we will lose fat if we follow and activate GLP-1. All right. What are the three food nutrients that strongly activate GLP-1? Well, we already talked about them, so there's no secret here, right? What are the two types of fiber? We're going to focus today on fiber. And what are the two types of fiber? Just to kind of test your general knowledge, and see if you kind of have an idea as far as that's concerned. What are the two main advantages of fiber? Why do we concentrate on fiber? What's the big deal? I can tell you that the majority of us in this country, at least, I don't know about all the other countries, but at least in this country, on a day-to-day basis, we're never getting our dose of fiber. Never. The majority of us. Okay, so let's talk about that. Because some of us don't even know how much it is we're supposed to consume each day. How much fiber should we consume each day to be metabolically stable? It has a lot to do with our metabolic health, fiber, the missing ingredient. All right, then we're going to talk about zone 2 walking briefly, but I'm going to reserve most of that discussion about strength and power for I'm having a special guest come on our webinar who's an exercise physiologist. I'm not an exercise physiologist. I'm not an expert in exercise. I know how to exercise. Sometimes I know how to do it right. Sometimes I don't do it so right. But the key that I will always tell you is to do it safely. That's the only thing that I want you to do is to exercise, whether you're walking or doing aerobic exercise, or whether, and especially if you're doing resistance training, which you'll have to do. If you're going to do resistance training, you have to do it safely. Okay. So proper technique, no matter how you get it done, proper technique is essential. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about exercise, not a whole lot. How much muscle mass loss is too much? I'll just kind of give you a brief blurb on how much muscle mass, if we're losing it, and we commonly do with certain types of techniques that we do. The cool thing about surgery is that we know how much muscle mass we're losing. We're losing around about 5% of the weight that we lose is muscle mass, 5 to 7%, as compared to GLP-1s, which start at 20% muscle mass loss, and sometimes will go up to 40%. Is that a big deal? I'm going to show you that it is. All right. Well, so let's give the questions. Let's give you the answers now. Let me see. Let me just check the chat box one more time. Okay. Somebody says I'm 9 days post-op, and I wish I had shrank my stomach. Okay. All right. GLP-1 is glucagon-like polypeptide 1. GLP-1 is glucagon-like polypeptide 1. All right. And so it's the thing that we commonly know because we see it in a bottle and it's all over the television and it's all over commercials and it's all the movie stars are taking. It is the big thing to do nowadays. All right. So that is we go. It's semaglutide, it's Mounjaro, it's tirzepatide, Ozempic. So we've had it around for a while, ever since 2004, something like that. What are the three main functions of GLP-1? Okay. Well, I'm going to show you the three main functions. And number one is to increase satiety. What does that mean, Doc? You don't use these big words for me. Satiety means that you get full on smaller amounts of food. Why would I want to do that? I'm going to show you. But just remember that it increases your ability to feel full on smaller amounts of food. Okay? So you feel full sooner. It blunts the reward system for processed food, the second thing. In other words, we get a certain amount of reward from certain types of foods, especially processed foods. But we get a reward from eating something, putting it into our mouth, going to the back portion of our mouth, and we get this feeling. And the food engineers know how to make certain foods that are crunchy, make certain foods that stimulate the back of our tongue, that stimulate to our brain and says, that was good. Let me have another bite. That's what I call these food cravings. And that's what the part of the brain is called the mesolimbic system. Don't have to remember that, but it's that part of the brain that releases dopamine. In other words, it doesn't give you actual pleasure from eating foods, but it makes you feel good. It gives you a positive sense that is designed to make you eat more. And so what GLP-1 does is it blunts that response, rightfully so. Because if we eat something that feels good, we like that feeling. And if we're depressed, if we're anxious, we're going to do it again. Because we need to control our anxiety. We need to control our depression. We need to have something that's going to activate our dopamine because things around us are stressful. So I find comfort in eating. We want to blunt that because that leads to eating too much. Okay. And thirdly, it blunts the release of ghrelin. What is ghrelin? Ghrelin is the I'm hungry hormone. Ghrelin is the hormone that is elevated when you wake up in the morning and you hadn't had anything to surround your ghrelin cells. Your ghrelin cells are in your stomach, in the top part of your stomach. Okay, in the funnest of your stomach, in the cardia of your stomach, then the top part of your stomach. And so they get stimulated when you eat something. And when you eat something and this soothes over those ghrelin cells in the stomach, the I'm hungry sensation goes away. Okay, so we don't want that on. We don't want to have the cravings. We don't want to have to eat a lot. And we don't want to be hungry because that leads to eating more and that leads to eating the wrong things and leads to deposits of more fat. Okay. So, what are the three food nutrients that strongly stimulate GLP-1? And I'm going to tell you why we want all this in just a second. So, the three food nutrients that stimulate GLP-1 are protein, fiber, and healthy fats. Now I'm going to change it around. It's going to be protein, healthy fats, and fiber. Now, GLP-1 comes from inside our intestinal tract. Before they came in a bottle that you could draw up in a syringe and inject with a needle, before it ever thought about coming in a bottle, we knew back in 1993, that's when we were as surgeons figuring out how surgery works. And we thought, okay, fine, we're making a small pouch. So it's calories in versus calories out. And then with the bypass, we were bypassing a certain amount of intestine. And so if we bypass that intestine, then the food doesn't have any place to get absorbed. That's what we were thinking. In 1993, the aha moment came up. And that's when GLP-1, glucagon-like polypeptide 1, was discovered. So it wasn't discovered by Pfizer. It wasn't discovered by Lilly. It was discovered by us. Well, but even before we as surgeons knew it, we knew about it as scientists a long time. Okay. So GLP-1, the cells that secrete GLP-1 live in the gut, in the intestinal tract. Now they're sparsely all over the body, in the brain and things of that nature, but they're predominantly in the gut. That's where we make our GLP-1. And so if we have GLP-1 in our small bowel, and basically in our jejunum, which is the first part of the small bowel, and then as the small bowel continues to go along, it's 18 feet down towards the ileum, then the concentration of GLP-1 cells increase. What does that have to do with it? more concentrated cells you have, the more GLP-1 you want to you deliver, you secrete. Okay. Then the second thing is basically healthy fats. Healthy fats stimulate GLP-1 at the level of the terminal ileum, that small part of the small bowel, that lower part of the small bowel, just before it goes into the colon. I'll show you a picture in just a second. And then there's fiber. Fiber activates mostly the GLP-1 cells in the colon, the right side of the colon, but throughout the colon. So why is it that I'm harping on this GLP-1 thing. Why do I want to increase satiety, decrease my ghrelin, decrease my pleasure from eating? Because I want to affect that formula, calories in versus calories out. Okay. It's not all about that, but it's calories in versus calories out. That's the one thing you have to do in order to lose fat. You got to make the body use the fat that you stored. We've got thousands, hundreds of thousands of fat calories stored in our body. I used to weigh 200 pounds, 210 pounds. I had a bunch of fat calories stored in my body. I didn't want that because I was starting having problems, heart problems and pre-diabetes and things of that nature, cholesterol problems. I was starting to have that. And there are people who are here who weigh 250, 300, 400, 500, 600 pounds. And that amount of fat we need to get off because that fat is a living, breathing structure. It's doing something. It's secreting cytokines. It's causing inflammation in our body that's causing us to be metabolically sick. Okay. So how do I get rid of that fat? Well, the first thing I have to do is create a calorie deficit, meaning that if I take in the same number of calories in my mouth that I need for that day, and that's called total daily energy expenditure. And what total daily energy expenditure is your basal metabolic rate. Your basal metabolic rate is the number of calories you need in order just to survive, in order just to breathe, just to think, just for your kidneys to function, just for your liver to function. That's called your basal metabolic rate. Then we don't just sleep and lay down all day. We get up and we do something. When we do something, we add our activity level, whether it's just doing nothing but getting up and going to work and coming home and sitting down and watching television. That has a certain amount of calories that it expends as well. If we're exercising throughout the day, that has a certain amount of calories as well. The combination of the basal metabolic rate along with the activity level gives you your total daily energy expenditure, the number of calories you need to support what you just done. You've gotten up, you've wakened up, and you basically exercise. So you require total daily energy expenditure. Now, if we require 2,500 calories and we're eating 2,500 calories, the body has no need to go to the fat store to get any calories. In other words, it's an equal sum game. You're taking in the number of calories that your body needs in order to function every day. And so you don't have any need to get any calories anywhere else. Therefore, if we want to lose the fat, which is our calorie bank, then we have to withdraw some calories from the calorie bank. And in order to do that, we've got to take in less calories than our total daily energy expenditure. Okay. So we tend to try to take in 1,000 calories less per day. All right. So if our body needs 2,500 calories, we're going to go down to 1,500 calories, creating a calorie deficit. Hope that's clear. Is that clear? So we create a calorie deficit. If our body requires 2,500 calories and we only take in 1,500 calories, we got 1,000 calorie deficit. And the body says, hey, that ain't good enough. It's at the end of the day, and I hadn't gotten my 2,500 calories. What you going to do about it? You're going to say, well, I'm on a diet. I can't give you any more. Body says, okay, do your thing. I'm going to go to the fat bank. And that's how we burn the fat. So what GLP-1 does is helps us do all of that. It helps us basically decrease the amount of food we're taking in by decreasing the reward system, decreasing the ghrelin stimulation, and making us feel full on smaller amounts of food. So if we have GLP-1 activated, then we can take in 1,000, 1,500 calories and feel okay through the day. All right. So you kind of get the picture, right? All right. How much fiber should we consume each day? Did anybody put that in there? All right. Get the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass 5 months ago. Best decision I ever made. Great. How much fiber should we consume every day? All right. What are the two types of fibers? We talked about that. The fiber, the types of fibers are insoluble and insoluble fiber. There are several types, other types, guar gum. Those types of fibers are things that I'm going to have a big announcement for you because a lot of people, this is an aside, are asking me, hey, doc, you're giving us too much information. Just tell me what to eat. You all heard me say that before. There are certain people that said, listen, yeah, I could care less about the science. I could care less about this. Just tell me what to eat. Just tell me what to do, doc. I'll do it. And so my thing is that I'm a teacher. I have to teach you something or else I just won't feel whole. And so, and so basically I have to give you a little bit of something. So you have to tolerate me for a little bit. But the key is I hear you. I am going to give you something that just basically I'm going to give you a brochure and tell you what to do, tell you how much fiber to take in, tell you when to take it, tell you how to take it, tell you how to take the protein in, and tell you how to take the healthy fats in. I'm going to give you that. And it's going to be in the protocol. I'm going to announce that pretty soon, hopefully within the next week or so, next week or the week after that, along with the exercise physiologist. And we'll tell you the program. It's going to be our fiber first program. Okay. All right. What are the two main advantages of dietary fiber? I'm going to show you that. Okay. How much muscle mass loss is too much? To me, any muscle mass loss is too much. However, the studies out there show they don't have a real clear definition on how much is too much, but there are certain studies that I'm going to show you that show that there's an increase in all-cause mortality once you start losing a certain amount of muscle mass. Okay. So if you're taking GLP-1 drugs, or if you even have surgery and you don't do your resistance training and you don't take in a protein supplement, which are steps that lead up to catastrophe, and you lose muscle mass, if you lose 10 pounds of muscle mass strength, not 10 pounds of muscle mass, I got that wrong. 10 pounds of strength. In other words, you come in and I do that hand grip strength thing on you, which I'm going to give one away today. You do that particular procedure, and from 3 months ago, you've lost muscle strength. You hadn't necessarily lost muscle mass, but you've lost strength. Strength is more important. And you know what's even more important than strength? Power. As we age, we want to maintain strength and we want to maintain power. If you lose 10 pounds of strength, you increase your all-cause mortality about 20 to 40%. That's not good because as we lose strength and as we lose power and when we're aging, we become more fragile. We have falls. We become frail, and we tend to go into demise primarily because of those reasons. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. All right, this is the grip strength. This is some of the studies that I was talking about. The Lancet in 2015, a pure study. Each 10-pound drop in grip strength. I said something right. I said it wrong. I said 20%, 40%. Each 10-pound drop in grip strength is 16% higher all-cause mortality. So scratch what I said before. I was thinking about something else. I'll tell you what I was thinking about. It was about based upon power. So this was a study of 140,000 adults across 17 countries. Pretty good study. Grip strength outperformed blood pressure as a predictor of heart attack, stroke, and death. Now, every time you go to a doctor's office, what is the first thing they get? Your temperature, your blood pressure, your pulse rate. Not one of those doctors I'd be willing to bet measures your grip strength. But this stuff is and this is just not this study. This is a very, very good study that everybody had access to. So why everybody didn't go out there and get a hand dynamometer, a hand grip dynamometer is beyond me. But we measure your blood pressure. Okay, that gives you an idea. Your blood pressure is high, cool. But look at the results here. Basically says strength is one of the strongest biomarkers of longevity, and it outperformed blood pressure as a predictor of heart attack, stroke, and death. So why would you not measure your grip strength? That's one study. Okay, another study. Muscle strength extends lifespan. Excuse me. Got to put on my glasses now. All right, this is a meta-analysis, British Medical Journal in 2018. High muscle strength equals 31%. This is what the number I was quoting. Higher muscle strength equals 31% lower risk of all-cause mortality. That's what I meant to say when I said that 20 to 40%. High muscle strength equals 31% lower risk of all-cause mortality. And across nearly 2 million adults, stronger individuals live significantly longer and had lower rates of cardiovascular disease and cancer and deaths. Take away building and maintaining strength adds years to your life expectancy. And you think about what it is we want to do. We work all our lives in order to retire. And we retire not to just sit around and just sit on the rocking chair. Some people do. But we retire primarily to enjoy the fruit of our labor. My years and years of labor, we want to enjoy. If indeed we spend our last several years going to the emergency room, going to the cardiologist, going to the hospital because of complications of our diabetes, hypertension, stroke, and things of that nature, we've wasted a significant amount of our time. I don't know if everybody is working to retire healthily, but I know I am. Okay. And if we're doing cardio, one of my office staff members was just doing cardio, and cardio is good. Zone 2 walking is good, but this is a study that's pretty interesting. This is out of New England Journal of Medicine in 2017, a randomized controlled trial in older adults, weight loss plus aerobic training, meaning that you've lost weight and you've just done walking, zone 2 equals muscle loss. Okay. So you got to do some resistance training, is what it's saying. Weight loss plus resistance training, on the other hand, equals preserve muscle. Preserve muscle equals longevity, quality, health span later on, which is what we're shooting for if we're going to go on trips with our young kids and grandkids. All right. So only the combination of aerobic and resistance training preserves strength, it preserves balance, and walking speed. Okay. So the takeaway, walking keeps your heart young, lifting keeps your body from aging. Okay. And this is just another study. I can go on and on and on with these studies, but I'll pull some of the best studies so that you can know that when I say this stuff, I'm not just kind of talking about my opinion, but it's data. As one of our previous scholars once said, you talking without data is just, you just giving me another opinion. I'm not just giving you opinion. I'm presenting to you the data. Okay. Sarcopenic obesity means that you've lost muscle mass. And sarcopenia is when as we're aging, we're losing muscle mass, and we think that that's okay because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Not necessary. If we begin to incorporate the right type of training in our daily routine, at least 2 times a week, doing some resistance training. And so the reason I'm going to have the exercise physiologist to come on the show is that I decided that I would show you, but I didn't want to show you anything wrong. So I decided to get an expert. I'm an expert at surgery, but I'm not that necessarily an expert at exercise. So for those of you at different levels of exercise, we want to give you somebody who can tell you, and we'll have a kind of a question and answer session with that person. All right. All right. This is where GLP-1 lives. X out that part in the stomach. GLP-1 has no cells in the stomach. But as I was trying to tell you before, we want an increased level of GLP-1 because it controls the amount of food we take in. It decreases our cravings and it decreases our hunger. So this is where they live. And so they're sitting there waiting for something to happen. And this is in the small bowel. This first part of the small bowel is called the jejunum. It's several feet long, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 feet long. This lower part of the small bowel is called the ileum. Don't have to remember that. I just want you to know that different things stimulate these, that stimulate these, that then stimulate these. All right? What are those things? All right. So when we do surgery, we long time ago, like I said, back in 1993, discovered that we need to stimulate those things. That when we stimulate these cells and even the lower ones, that we got a pretty good surge of GLP-1. So let me remind you again, our GLP-1 will make us eat less and will create a calorie deficit. And if we have fat to give, our body then is going to use that fat as a source of calories, a source of fuel. Okay? So that's how we get rid of it. Every time we take 1,000 calories out of the bank every day, it's going to cause us to shrink. Ingenious. So we said, okay, fine, let's see how we can stimulate those cells in the lower part of the small bowel earlier. So we came up with the gastric bypass. Like I said, the reason we did it at first is because we thought, okay, fine, we bypass this part of the intestine, so it's not absorbing any food. We thought that that was the mechanism. That has some part of the mechanism is true, no question about it. We don't absorb food if we bypass it, right? But the primary mechanism of fat loss with the gastric bypass is because we're stimulating that portion of the bowel that has one of the greatest concentrations of GLP-1 cells. Okay. And this is the gastric bypass. So we're basically putting things down here. But the GLP-1s, just because we make that arrangement, is not the end all be all. Is that those cells are sitting there and they have to be activated. And they're very specific of what they're activated and deactivated by. They're very specific. We do the same thing with the sleeve. It's a little different mechanism. We just take out 80%, 85% of the stomach so that the food doesn't sit here very long. And so it more quickly gets to that small bowel where the GLP-1 cells live. A little bit different mechanism. And that's in primarily because we don't get there directly and to the lower part directly. That's why the sleeve gastrectomy has a little bit less weight loss, a little bit, than the gastric bypass. All right. So, what do we want to accomplish? We want to accomplish satiety, feeling full. We don't want to feel hungry, and we want to stop our our our, our cravings. We want to stop our cravings. And so that just leads to one thing. We just don't eat enough. We're not eating that 2,500 calories that we need. We're only eating 1,000 calories, and our body has to go to the fat store to get the rest of it. And what happens when we go to the fat store and we extract it out? We lose fat. All right? All right. So this is what happens when we have GLP-1 release over time. So I encourage you guys to eat 2 meals a day. If you want to still eat 3 meals a day, it's okay. But I don't want to talk about autophagy now because autophagy is when we're cleaning up the trash in our bodies. But it's too big of a topic just to kind of put out there like that. But suffice it to say that we should go without eating food for certain periods of time, and that's called fasting. And so basically, I preach about doing the 18-hour fast, which is what I do, but I don't recommend you start out that, but at least a 16-hour fast, meaning that you don't eat your first meal until 10 a.m. and your last meal is 6 p.m. Okay, so there's an 8-hour window there that you're going to eat, right? All right, so basically after 6 p.m., you're fasting, other than taking water, right? So this is when you're eating certain types of foods, you're stimulating certain GLP-1 receptors. And as I mentioned before, I hope I did, that when you eat protein, this is the yellow part, when you eat protein, protein first stimulates those cells in the small bowel. Eat protein first, and that's regardless of whether you've had the bypass or not. Eat protein first, stimulate, and that's your first wave of release of GLP-1. We want GLP-1 released, okay? So protein first, and then we're going to eat next the blue, the fats, okay? And then we're going to eat the fiber. So protein, fat, and fiber. Protein, healthy fat, and fiber. That sequence, and I'm going to show you some studies because, again, data, I mean, statements without data is just another opinion. So we're going to basically eat the fats next, on our plate. And every meal, we're going to eat this sequence. Those three types have got to be on every plate. All right. So we're going to eat protein first. And you can see the peak of protein only lasts for about a couple of hours. Okay. But then you eat that second thing on the blue part, the fats, avocado or some salmon. That basically is going to increase over a period of a longer period of time. It has a little, this is called the area under the curve. And basically it's going to peak up a little bit higher and going to last a little longer. Cool, right? But if we only ate those students, which is the most common thing that we do, okay? We eat protein, we eat bacon and eggs all the time. We eat sausage and whatever all the time. This is what we're doing. What are we missing out of majority? And I'll show you the slides that reflect our common meals every day. But this is what we got. So after this peak here, you kind of get about 4 p.m., you're hungry again. And if you're going to eat again, you're going to repeat this again. And basically, it's going to end about 10 p.m. Totally empty, 10 p.m., you're going to get hungry. So the key is fiber. You add fiber on that plate. You add asparagus, lentils, quinoa. You add some fiber on that plate, even the avocado. Basically, that's going to give you another spike. A little bit less than the fats, but another spike here, and it's going to last till 10 p.m. But you don't want to get hungry again at 10 p.m. and get up and start snacking, right? And so you don't. What happens? Yeah, what happens is this kind of curve. All right, so this is our brunch starting at 10 o'clock. So we get a protein spike, and then we get the fats and the fiber. All right, and then you can see that we got a peak here, a peak here, and peak here. And then as that peak begins to go down, what do we do again? At 6 p.m., we're going to eat, just before 6, we're going to eat again. I'm going to get another spike of protein, fats, and fiber. Okay, and so what we wind up having is a curve that gives us an average satiety level that's right around in here. So these curves that go the protein, fiber, and the healthy fat, the protein, fiber, and the healthy fat at 6 p.m. gives us a level that keeps us full throughout the day until the next day, until 10 a.m. the next day. So we're full and we're not craving foods. We're not craving the Cheerios or the crackers or the processed foods. So that's why it's important to keep all three of those products on each plate. But we don't do that. I won't go into this too much. Well, yeah, I won't go into this today. All right, we'll do this some other time. I will go into this. All right. So we talked about it before, and this is just going to be a quick review because some people got it. Some people says, I didn't quite understand that slide. All right. So our body makes cholesterol. Our liver makes cholesterol. And so we were talking about our LDL cholesterol. Our doctor's always trying to put us on statins. And as you all know, I'm a strong believer that everybody is treated individually. But as soon as some people see that your LDL cholesterol is up, you need to be on a statin. I don't think that everybody needs to be on a statin or any other medicine for any other drug for cholesterol control. It's individualized. Obviously, it depends upon what else you possibly can do. So the VLDL, and I won't get into this because it's too messy, but your liver makes the cholesterol, and that cholesterol comes from somewhere. You're eating carbohydrates, it deposits cholesterol, and your body carries cholesterol, but it mostly gets it from things that we're taking in. All right. And so it begins to go to the liver, and the liver has to have a constant source of cholesterol and triglycerides in order for the liver to manufacture that cholesterol. But once it does manufacture it, it packages it up. Because now that it is manufactured, it's got to go delivered. It's an Amazon truck or a FedEx truck. It's got to go deliver to certain areas. More commonly, it delivers it to the cells of our body, all of our cells, cardiac cells, brain cells, our peripheral cells, our muscle cells, all of our cells gets its share of cholesterol because the wall of all of our cells are made of cholesterol. We got other things made of cholesterol too, right? Our estrogen and progesterone, our hormones are made of cholesterol, some of them. And so the, the, the liver makes this cholesterol, it packages it up after it makes it, and it puts it into the bloodstream because the bloodstream is the highway that it has to go down. And then as it goes into the highway, the bloodstream, it then is going to drop off. Here are all the cells in the body. It's going to drop off cholesterol here to make these little cell walls whole again because they break down. It's going to drop off cholesterol to our ovaries, to our testes. It's going to drop it off so we can make our estrogen and progesterone and other hormones. So when you're going to see it going here, and as it goes to this way, it's going to make a stop. And it stops and gives this group of cells some cholesterol and triglycerides. It gives off mostly triglycerides first. And then it's going to come here, it's going to make a stop. Here it can make a stop. And eventually, after it gets rid of all the triglyceride, it's going to have LDL left, lower density lipoprotein left. And that is what you're going to see as far as your blood work, your LDL cholesterol. Now, your LDL cholesterol, if that truck down at this area here is still full, your LDL cholesterol is going to be elevated. But what I'm going to show you is that it may not matter so much that the truck is still full and that the concentration of your LDL cholesterol is not as important as the lipoprotein B, basically the quantity of the trucks delivered. So if you just have one truck going down this freeway and there's basically not any other traffic, doesn't matter how much LDL cholesterol that truck has in it. Your truck can be totally full, but if it's going down here and it's not bumping against that wall, it's going to deliver its thing, it's going to do its job. So that is the concept that they came up with. It says, okay, fine. Yeah, we thought that LDL cholesterol was the ultimate test, but it's not. Okay. It's the number of trucks that are delivering. But so basically, you're going to get that quantitative study. Basically, it's going to tell what your ApoB is. Okay. I'll get into that. All right, here we go. So you get your VLDL, and that VLDL is gonna, let's see if I can continue to go. Hope it works. Okay. I just told that whole story, didn't I? You hit play. Okay, so you can see it is going into the bloodstream and it's stopping. It's making that first stop. All right. So my slides don't want to work today, but try it again. Go, go, go. It's not gonna go. I'm sorry. But anyway, it's gonna go. I'm gonna force it along. And basically, that VLDL is going to go to the bloodstream. It's going to go to the highway so it can deliver its particles. Okay. So it's full at this point in time. VLDL is the large particle. Okay. And as it goes each step of the way, you're going to see here, it's going to deliver its cargo to somebody. It just delivered that cargo over to that cell, some cholesterol. It's going to continue to go down and it's going to shrink as it sheds its triglycerides. It shrinks. All right. Still has its cholesterol, but it's going to shrink. And basically, it's giving more cholesterol here. This is so funny. And it shares cholesterol as it continues to shrink. So by this time, halfway down, it goes from VLDL to IDL. Some of you heard of that, some of you haven't. But it's intermittent density lipoprotein. All right. So I'm going to keep on going down, and you can see that it's shedding a little bit more. It gave some more. It sheds triglycerides, and it shrinks, and it shrinks. And eventually it gets down to here and it's rich in cholesterol. It's giving all the triglycerides out. Some cholesterol is given out, but it's mostly giving out triglycerides and it becomes rich in cholesterol. That's your LDL. So it's going from VLDL to IDL down to LDL. And that's what we're measuring. We're measuring how much cholesterol is in that one truck. When your doctor orders an LDL cholesterol C, that's the content, then or the concentration, they're basically measuring the amount in that one truck. And that does matter, but it doesn't matter as much as how many trucks, because you can see this thing didn't hit the wall at all. So it's the damage to the wall that causes the problem. I'm spending too much time on this, but anyway, so you got rich in cholesterol, and this thing is just not going to work for me. But all right, so what happens is that this is what we're measuring. So this cholesterol basically is now LDL, all right? And it's going to sit there and basically, if indeed it damages the wall, then it's going to deposit that cholesterol to patch that damage to the wall. But if it doesn't damage the wall, it's not going to do any harm. I have a friend of mine who basically LDL cholesterol has been high all his life, but his quantity of trucks, okay, the quantity of trucks, the ApoB is basically small, and the number of trucks are small. So the amount of concentration of his LDL is not that big of a deal. Okay, I'm spending too much time. Let me go to the next part. What my point is that if we eat something, we eat food in the right way, we can basically uh, rob the body of its cholesterol and decrease our own cholesterol numbers. So normally, this is going to work, I hope. Normally, the cholesterol and all that stuff goes down in the intestinal tract, and it normally goes on down and it gets reabsorbed. 95% of it gets reabsorbed because the liver is stingy. It says, okay, fine, I'm going to use this bile salts and this cholesterol and these triglycerides, and basically going to deliver it back to the liver because I don't want to have to seek anymore. But if you were able to so what happens is that those bile salts and that cholesterol basically kind of continue to go through. So we want to create a situation just like we have a need for fat. We want to burn fat. If our cholesterol is high, we want to have a need for that cholesterol. So our liver has a need for that cholesterol. And so we rob our vessels of the cholesterol. We rob our body of the cholesterol. So our overall cholesterol levels are low. I hope that makes sense. All right. So if I add dietary fiber first, then it's going to act as a sponge. It acts as a sponge and it's going to hold on to the bile salts and the cholesterol. Okay. Get where I'm going with this? If it holds on to that cholesterol, basically it's going to then not get absorbed because the fiber, that's the sponge, cannot get absorbed in the bloodstream. It cannot go back into this portal vein to the liver. Cannot. All right. So, oops. So as you can see here that it bypasses the area that it once went back and it goes out into the stool. So when we don't have enough supply of the ingredients to make cholesterol, then the liver goes out and says, okay, fine, I need some cholesterol. So where does it get it from? It gets it from your body. It gets it from your stores and your cells. It gets it from your vessels. And so your vessel cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol goes down and your LDL cholesterol goes down. And this study showed that exactly. So each 5 grams of soluble fiber taken before the meals results in a 6 milligrams per deciliter decrease, a linear decrease in your LDL cholesterol level. Okay. That was a study of 14,000 adults in 181 randomized controlled studies. And with that fiber, you did a 31% decrease in coronary artery disease, 24% decrease in risk of heart attack, 22% risk of stroke, 15% decreased risk of all-cause mortality, and 16% risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want the number one cause, the number one mortality in the United States is still heart disease. Who wouldn't want a 31% less chance of dying of a heart attack? I mean, 24% chance of a heart attack, but coronary heart disease mortality, meaning that atrial fibrillation, it means PACs, it means all sort of heart disease. 31% chance of me dying from that. I do, because I've had atrial fibrillation. I've had congestive heart failure. I want to decrease my mortality rate by 31%. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take some fiber in, right? So how much am I going to take in? Well, the recommended allowance that we should be taking in is 38 grams. I just rounded up to 40 for men and 25 grams for women. Mostly insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber, like I showed at the diagram, is that sponge. All right. Okay. So we're going to get 10 to 15 grams of it in soluble fiber. I prefer the upper half, 15 grams at least. I like to get mine in the form of triple fiber here. This is one product. This is some people don't like to go out and buy that. The other type of fiber I use, this is what I'm getting ready for my brunch. I'm gonna give me some black beans in there. This has 9 grams of fiber. So I've had my 14 grams in my coffee of that stuff. I'll have my 9 grams of black beans. I'll get my fiber today. All right. I'm going to go through these slides because I'm running low on time. Okay. This is the studies. These are the studies that show, got to put my glasses on for this one, that food order has a significant impact on postprandial glucose and insulin levels. And this particular study showed that you taking in the fiber first significantly impacts your glucose level. So if you, and I've done this particular test. I have a continuous glucose monitor on. I don't have it on now, but I had it on. And basically when I took my oatmeal, and I don't poo-poo oatmeal totally. Poo-poo oatmeal for those who are severely metabolically challenged. If you got brain fog, hypertension, diabetes, sleep, if you got real metabolic challenges, then yeah, staying away from oatmeal primarily because it, first of all, spikes your glucose and that spikes your insulin. So we want to try to get those curves down. So I'm going to tell you to stay away from oatmeal. However, if you're not pre-diabetic or diabetic, if you don't have hypertension, then I'm going to say, well, maybe oatmeal is okay for you if you do it the right way. And so the food order has significant impact. So what do I mean by food order? So oatmeal has fiber in it, but it also has a significant glycemic index. So do I want to take it first? This thing says, no, you should basically take it with some sort of fiber, some additional fiber in addition to that. All right. This pilot study, we demonstrated that the temporal sequence of carbohydrate ingestion during a meal has a significant impact on postprandial glucose and insulin excursions. The magnitude of the effect of food order on glucose level is comparable to that observed with pharmacological agents. You get that? In other words, if you take in fiber first, and like I said, not everybody, I don't want everybody taking in sweet potatoes. I don't want everybody taking in macaroni and cheese. I don't want everybody taking in rice. Some people said, but I had to kind of meet you where you are. So we evaluate you to see where you are. If you, like I said, if you're severely metabolic deficient or metabolically unhealthy, then I'll say stay away from all those things. But if you're not quite there yet, then I'll give you a little bit of wiggle room. My whole mantra is that we're not all the same. So I'm not going to tell you that you got to do what everybody else is doing. I'm not going to tell you that you got to do what I'm doing. I'm going to tell you that you got to do based upon your needs, your metabolic needs. Therefore, this thing right here basically says, okay, fine. Can I have rice? If you're not that metabolically challenged and you eat vegetables or fiber in front of that rice or in front of that macaroni and cheese, there's a possibility that yes, but it needs to be looked at. Okay. So this is where I'm going with this. My mother-in-law says she'd rather die rather than give up her rights, literally. So I had to deal with that every single day. Why would somebody do that, say that? But I have to deal with that. So how can I make her life better? Well, if I tell her to eat her vegetables first and then the rice, in other words, the sequence of food, she's got data that actually says that she'll get less impact from that rice. All right. This is another study. And again, basically just trying to tell you that these studies have been out there for a long time. There's a program that I'm getting ready to get involved in that's going to make all this easy for you, delivering the fiber to you, delivering the type of items that I want you to have. Basically, I'll make it easier for you and delivering a product, chlorogenic acid, that actually helps stimulate the GLP-1, kind of the whole thing we need. We want fiber to actually stimulate GLP-1 release, and we want something else in the product. And I think I have that product for you. I'm going to introduce you to it. Maybe not today, maybe next week. Okay. All right. So a portion of this product that I'm talking about has gum, and it improves postprandial glycemia and glycated hemoglobin A1C. Again, the same thing. I know you don't understand this. Some of you do, but it was a 12-week single-blind randomized controls trial that said if you took the fiber first, You took that first, you basically decreased the impact of the subsequent carbohydrates you took in. Okay. So it allows me to tell people, okay, fine. Now, um, you need to stay away from all carbohydrates altogether. We can work with. You can take your rice, you can take you this, you can take that. Because what I found out is that people will do it. You've seen some of my patients are probably on here who went back to eating the way that they were eating before and they regained the weight. And what I'm saying is that they may regain the weight primarily because they were severely metabolically challenged and they went back to the way they were doing things. And that's understandable that you regain the weight. However, is there a way to mitigate that? I'm here to tell you that, yep, there's a possibility. Okay. So, but let me tell you one other problem I have, and this is what we're working on. If I tell you to eat fiber, and I tell you eat a certain amount of protein, I tell you need about a pound of protein for ideal body weight. So everybody on this thing here, if you're weighing more than 150 pounds, everybody on this webinar needs about 150 grams of protein every day. And everybody on this program needs about 25 to 40 grams of fiber every day, right? If you were going to do that with whole foods, you'd be taking in too many calories. And the whole point of fat loss is to create a calorie deficit. So on the one hand, I'm telling you, yeah, you got to have this much protein, you got to have this much fiber, but that's going to create a calorie overload. I'm going to give you an example. One meal, in order to get the amount of protein that you need to have in meal one, brunch, whole food only, single protein, 6 egg whites, 2 whole eggs. Now, who can eat that? Greek yogurt, this is in one meal. This is what it has to have. You have to have in order to reach my protein requirements in whole food. All right. So that's meal one. Then you have to have a half an avocado, half a quarter cup of almonds. That's 8 grams of fiber, 1 tablespoon of olive oil. That will give you 55 grams of protein, 1/3 of the way there. And 18 grams of fiber, halfway there. What is 1,250 calories? I made your stomach very, very small. They can only hold 1,000 calories. It'll eventually stretch up to hold 1,500 to 1,200 calories, but not now. So the second meal is going to be dinner. If you're just taking food, basically you're going to take in chicken breast. That's going to give you 70 grams of protein. Then you're going to take in a couple of lentils and a cup of broccoli and a sweet potato and a cup of green beans. That's going to give you 15 grams to 25 grams of protein. Then you got to take in the avocado. This is eating whole food. You're going to get 95 grams of protein with that at 1,750 calories. What does that give you? Well, for that day, you're taking in 3,000 calories. Your body, your total daily energy expenditure, the example that I gave you in the beginning, is only 2,500 calories. You taking in 500 calories more, you're not going to lose any fat. So how are you going to meet those needs of protein that you really have to have primarily because you don't want your hair to fall out, you don't want to lose skin, you don't want your systems to mess up, and fiber in order for all the things of fiber, you got to have those amounts. But how can you do that? Obviously, you know where I'm going with this. I'm going with that basically. You got to supplement because people aren't supplementing, and I'm telling you that you have to do that because if I give you a pouch that only holds 1,000 calories, or if I just tell you, if you've not had the surgery, that your secret to losing weight is to restrict the number of calories you take in and make a calorie deficit, and I'm going to put you on 1,000 or 1,500 calorie diet with whatever adjunct I give you, then you're not going to get your protein amount. Then you're not going to get your fiber amount. Because 1,000 or 1,500 calories ain't a whole lot of protein, ain't a whole lot of fiber, is it? So you got to supplement. So we're going to make supplementing easier for you, okay? Ingredients and portion. This is just another example. I won't necessarily go, but just look how much if you're just eating whole foods on another day. 4 slices of bacon, 4 egg whites, 2 whole eggs, rolled oats, raspberries, just to get 8 grams of protein and 10 grams of fiber. No, that's more than that. That portion is 8 grams of protein. This portion is 20 grams, and your total is 76 grams of protein in this meal. Look at how much you're taking in. You cannot take that in after surgery, after a sleeve, after a bypass, and you cannot take that in if you're trying to lose fat. Just can't. So we have to basically, these just basically say the same thing. We have to basically supplement. And what we supplement is that I want to kind of give you a program where you take a pre-meal shake within taking 5 to 10 minutes before eating, whey protein isolate. You could use the triple blend fiber, which has psyllium, inulin, and calcium. And so I'm going to put all this in a format to you that it's going to be easy for you to understand. And then I'm getting involved with a product that'll give this to you all in one protocol. One protocol. Because people are, they're getting on Amazon and buying this and this and this. It's getting to be a hassle for people. And some people says, Doc, you're making it too hard. You're explaining all this stuff, and I get it, but you're making it too hard for us. We're not going to stick with that. I get it. So I have to meet you where you are, and that's what we're going to do. Okay. So this talks about, so we're going to add the fiber in and a protocol. We're going to give that to you, and basically you're going to have that accentuated by some things that actually stimulate GLP-1 as well. And we're going to give you the protocol as to when to eat it. Then that protocol will be combined with the exercise protocol, exercise portion of it. And this is why I want to go back to the thing that people are commonly doing. They're getting GLP-1 drugs online, which is to me very, very dangerous because it's not coming with any sort of protocol. You're losing muscle mass. Nobody's telling you that losing muscle mass is a bad thing because every commercial you see is somebody who's gotten smaller, and all you see is them getting smaller. You don't see them getting weaker and nauseated. You don't see that portion on television, do you? But the loss of muscle mass is significant. And that significant loss of muscle mass can increase your disability when you get older at the time when you don't want to be disabled, at the time when you want to enjoy life, when you return. Okay. So we're going to pull this all together in a protocol that's going to be delivered to you. And you're basically going to make it easier. The protocol is going to consist of when to eat, what to eat, the types of fiber to eat, and basically when to exercise. That's going to be our protocol. Okay. All right. Let me go through this. Tell me what's wrong with these slides. I'm going to tell you what we're taking in every single day. Okay. Some people will go to IHOP and will get this morning. I'm going to open up a chat box. Says now I want you all to talk to me. What's wrong with this meal? This is what somebody's going to go to IHOP today and going to eat this. Anybody? So this meal right here, and it looks good. But what's wrong with it? Somebody says the roll dose won't work for me. I get it. So we're going to individualize people. We're going to give all sort of protocols for different people, and we're going to tweak it for everybody. Okay. So day one of brunch, so obviously right here, it has 0 grams of fiber in it, but this will get somebody full for the morning, right? For a little while. Then they'll go and have dinner. What's wrong with this one? Same thing, but it's a good meal, right? There's some fried chicken, whatever these things are, chicken nuggets, mashed potatoes, and gravy and bread and some sweet tea. 0 fiber. Now I'm telling you that some people will think that this is a good meal. I don't like the fried anything. That's super, super processed. But I'm gonna have a hard time pulling some people away from mashed potatoes. But I'm gonna develop a protocol that's gonna say, okay, fine, you can eat baked chicken and maybe a little piece of bread and maybe some mashed potatoes and gravy, no sweet tea. But if you do something first, if you take the fiber in first, I just showed you the studies. Let that sink into your head. So whatever you do, take your fiber first, but take your fiber. This whole slide, this whole scenario is basically what we told you in the beginning. The one golden nugget that we're missing every single day is that we're eating foods like this. This is day 2 brunch. On day 1, you eat this. This is the actual meal that a patient told me through their memory that they had. They had a bagel, they had some eggs, they had some hash browns, and some bacon and some coffee. What's missing here, ladies and gentlemen? The fiber. All right? That's a nice meal, right? It looks scrump delicious, but it's not doing us any good. It's actually not that good. This is another one. Can I eat a cheeseburger and fries and a Coke? No fiber. Somebody said, well, there's some lettuce. You got some... No, no, the lettuce is not that much fiber. Okay. A nut day three brunch. Good old French toast, some sausage, bacons, and some milk. Zero fiber though. But can I eat this every now and then, Doc? Don't rob me of going to IHOP every now and then. I'm not. I'm going to basically show you how we can do this. All right. So you can't do this every day. You can't do this every week. But I am not going to rob you of the pleasure of eating because I've had a lot of people that have dropped off hey, Doc, listen, I regained my weight. Nobody can stick to that thing that you gave us for the rest of our lives. I'm just telling you, Doc, nobody. Now, I take issue with that because some people can. Some people can, but I guarantee it is hard. So what am I going to do? I'm going to meet you in the middle. I'm going to meet you in the middle. I'm going to give you a way to eat some spaghetti and some garlic bread. But you got to do something first. You got to promise me you're going to do something first. You're going to take in the fiber first. And if you don't take in this fiber, we're going to give you a fiber protocol to take pretty soon. Okay? So stay tuned for next week. We're going to give you that fiber protocol. This is a day four brunch, waffles. I love some waffles. Have I had waffles in a long time? No, I haven't. But would I like to have them? Right now, I'm not craving them because my GLP-1 is up, but I wouldn't necessarily say push it away, right? I would. But it would be nice if this wasn't punishing for me. It'd be nice if I sat down with the family and they say, "Hey, Dad, have a waffle there." And I say, "No, no, no, no." It'd be nice if I could take that in, everyone. There is a way. We're gonna talk about that. This is day four dinner. That's some burnt meatloaf there, some corn. What are we missing? We're missing fiber, right? And just having fiber on the plate is cool, but having fiber 15 minutes, 30 minutes before you eat this, it's got to take some getting used to, but we got the protocol. We're going to tell you how to do it, okay? So French toast again, eggs and sausages. This is a meal that I ate all the time when I was a kid and in high school and all that. And they're still doing it. Okay. All right. There you go. Chicken, macaroni and cheese, and sausage and bread. Where, where's the tea? All right. That's day five dinner. Again, 0 grams of fiber. If I add some fiber in there, can I eat that macaroni and cheese? So that's what I'm trying with my mother-in-law. She will not do without the rice. She'd rather kill me than do without the rice. I get it. I get it. I'm not gonna make her upset. But I'm not gonna sit back and let her do what I know rice is doing to her body. She's weak, she's frail, yeah. I'm not gonna sit back and let that happen. I'm gonna offer some alternatives. The same thing I'm gonna do with you. Okay? All right, day six brunch. I'm just going through day seven. Day six dinner, same scenario, each one. Good old croissant, ham and cheese, bacon, ham and cheese and egg croissant with some hash brown. Who wouldn't love that? Who wouldn't love that? Would y'all love that? All right. No rice, no fiber. What about brown rice? Yeah. So somebody said, what about brown rice? Yeah. Brown rice is a little bit better for some people. Like I said, if you're severely metabolically challenged, I'm going to tell you to stay away from rice altogether. But I want to say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek, primarily because there may be a way, and that's the way we're testing, is that if you eat the fiber first and the brown rice, there's significant data that I just showed you from studies, randomized studies that say that's a possibility. So if brown rice is your thing, yeah, and you're metabolically challenged, yeah, can you have it? Yeah, with the protocol. Okay, all right. And everybody's favorite on day seven, watching football, pizza or a whole pizza, not just a slice of pizza, but several slices along with Coke. Yeah, zero fiber. Now, I'm not sure if we can go this far by by putting some broccoli, some green beans, some lentils with pizza. I'm not sure who's going to do that. But what if I gave you a product? that you could put in your drink and take that 15 minutes before you ate that, and it would reduce your insulin spike, your glucose spike. I got to meet you halfway because I got to quit being dogmatic about my way or the highway. Because I've always told you that that didn't work in personal training, it doesn't work in diets, it doesn't work anywhere. And so I've got to quit being so dogmatic. So I got to meet you halfway, and I've got to find ways to make it work. That's what we're doing. So that's 6 months. All right. All right. So anyway, this is our goal, is to have these three spikes because we're going to have protein, fat, and fiber. Okay. And then we're going to have these three spikes twice a day. Right. So we want to have, if the more healthier foods that we can eat is eggs with a little bit of avocado and some colorful vegetables on the side. That gives us this spike here in the morning, and then we have this in the evening, day one dinner with some salmon, again, some fiber. All through the rest of the whole plate is fiber. And then just you're gonna put the triple fiber in there as well. Or something else that I'm going to tell you about. What that'll do is that gives you that first spike, and then it gives you that second spike. And I showed you early on, that results in a line of satiety that comes right here, and it stays all the way till the next day. So we don't get hungry until the next day. That's what we want, all right? So these are all pretty much, they will be on the website. I'm going to end up here because I'm not going to go that long. Excuse me. But I'm going to put this presentation on the website. So you can pretty much kind of go back and revisit the things that I want you to do. And like I said, next week, I hope to have the exercise physiologist, but I'll definitely have the protocol that for those folks who want it easy, and I'm meeting you halfway there, I'm going to give you what you need to do. And then along with that, we'll give you a guarantee. All right. Whoever heard of that? Guarantee. All right. I think that pretty much these are just foods that I'll have these foods and slides on the website that you'll be able to visit them. And I'll put the ones that are bad, say bad. And these are the ones that are good. Get you some good old salmon. But again, the thing about having this fiber, having fiber, is that if you've had surgery or if you want to lose weight, if you want to lose fat, you've got to extract the storage fat and pull it out to use it as an energy source. And you won't be extracting fat if you take this whole plate of food. Okay. Even if you haven't had the surgery, if you basically take this whole plate of food, you'll take in too many calories. And then your body says, okay, fine, you're taking in the number of calories that you need. There's no point in me burning this fat, right? Makes sense, right? Makes sense. All right, I'm just taking the same. So this talks about seed oils. I'll talk a little bit more about that next week. What turns those GLP-1 cells off? Like we just talked about all the foods that turn it on, the protein, the fats, the healthy fats, and the fiber. That turns it on, makes those GLP-1 cells in the intestinal tract come on. The seed oils turn them off, and I'll show you how it does that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna stop the share, and I'm going to give away there are people that came on the thing primarily to see if they won the scale. So I'm gonna give away a scale, one scale, and one hand dynamometer to check your strength. Okay. All right. All right. So the person that won is Paul Luncey. Paul Luncey. Okay. Paul Luncey here. Okay. And the second person that Paul Luncey is not here is Patricia Whitehouse. Patricia Whitehouse. Is Patricia Whitehouse here? Oh yeah, Patricia Whitehouse. Very good. So Patricia Whitehouse is going to win the scale. And then let's see, I have one other person that for the hand grip. I'll tell you what, we'll give the hand grip next week. Who wants to win the hand grip? Some people don't even don't even want the hand grip. I'm not going to give it to anybody who doesn't want it. So I'm going to give away another scale next week. So put it into the chat box whether you want to win a chance to win the scale. Come back next week to hear, hopefully, the exercise physiologists are about our new protocol, our fiber first protocol, Peachtree fiber first protocol. All right. And we're going to give you this protocol along with teaching materials and along with how to exercise and basically put this package all together so that not only your cholesterol will be okay, but your GLP-1 you'll lose fat, you'll do great. And I'm going to meet you halfway. Now, I'm not saying that basically that I'm going to let everybody eat rice and macaroni and cheese and mashed potatoes. I'm just not. Because if you're if you're struggling with high blood pressure, sleep apnea, type 2 diabetes, you got issues with brain fog or even early Alzheimer's disease, I'm gonna say, hey, as a physician, I can't tell you that you can take in that macaroni and cheese. If you do, you do it on your own. But there are some people who aren't quite there yet, who want to prevent getting there. But the only way I'm going to prevent them getting there is to meet them halfway. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So put it in the chat box because once I close the chat box, it, your opportunity disappears. Put it in the chat box if you want the scale next week. So Patricia Whitehouse, I'm going to deliver that. You'll get a call from Charlene. She'll deliver that scale to you. And put it in the chat box whether you want the scale or you want the hand dynamometer next week. Okay. The hand grip. I need the scale like I need air. I need the scale like I need air. Okay. All right. It's just 3 more seconds. All right. Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, I have so much fun doing this. I hope you have just as much fun. Put it in the chat box now. If you learn anything new today, I promise you, every time I speak to you, I'm gonna I'm gonna teach you something new. I went through 4 years of medical school, 5 years of residence, and then put on a lot of talks and learned some stuff even since then, medical school and residency. So I got a lot to teach you. And so there's no point in me just going over the same old stuff every single time. So I promise you that every single time that I talk to you every Saturday, you're going to learn something new. So make sure that I'm right today. If you learned something new, put it in the chat box. Say, hey, I learned something new, and tell me what it was. Okay? Yeah. Very good. All right. Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you all are beautiful. I appreciate you all a lot. And I hope to be talking to you again next week. Hope we will have a world-renowned, at least in Atlanta, exercise physiologist to help us tell what kind of exercises you want us to do, Doc. People ask me that all the time. And I says, well, I can show you what exercises I do, but I don't want to be responsible for you doing it incorrectly. So I'm going to bring an expert on with us, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I will be talking to you next week. Have a great and fabulous weekend. God bless you.